off tonight? Hello. Hello. Okay, tonight we have, wow, a lot of guys here tonight. Tonight we have App Store panel. We have RIM, Getjar, Obi, and Chomp on the panel, moderated by Jessica Dolcourt from CNET. So anyway, for those of you guys who don't know me, I am Mario Tapia, and I just started at Getjar, which is great company to be at. And I think Mike Rowell, Mike, are you here tonight? Where's Mike? We'll find Mike Rowell here somewhere. And Mike was the guy who put this thing together a couple of years back. So I kind of warm you guys up with a couple of questions with the start. And so let's go with the raise of hands. Who's here for the first time tonight? Really? Okay, wow. It's almost like half of you guys all the time. All right. And obviously the rest of you guys have been here before. So my other question is, just to get an idea of who's here, how many of you currently are planning to build a brew application? Raise your hand. Don't be shy. Okay, there's two. Okay. No, three. All right. Palm. How many guys currently or will build for Palm? Really? We're the Palm people. No. Okay. All right. How many of you guys currently or plan to develop something on Symbian? Wow. Cool. All right. And I forgot Java, but how many guys currently are planning to build something on G2? I mean Java. Really? Okay. How many folks currently are planning to build on Android? Wow. Okay. All right. And how many folks for the iOS's, iPhone, etc.? Wow. Okay. So we kind of have an idea. And don't want to forget our folks from RIM, who are our sponsors tonight. How many guys currently are planning to build something on RIM? Yeah. Come on, you guys? Okay. Awesome. Okay. So, when you go, I'll ask that question next year. But so tonight we got to talk about app stores. We have a good cross section of what's out there in terms of parties that you guys can make as developers for distribution channels. We also have some great platform folks here. So I'll hand this off to Jessica Dolcourt, and she is a senior editor at CNET. Senior associate editor at CNET, which is part of CBS Interactive. And we'll probably run questions about 45 minutes. We'll grant you guys a lot of questions as well. So let's see how long that takes. And then for folks that are hiring, have announcements to make. Folks that are looking for work, we'll have announcements at the end of the end of the night. So typically, you guys can just line up here and just go one by one with announcements. That's our typical format. And then we call it a night, and then the bars will still be back open after we're done. Okay? So, introducing Jessica. Thank you.
Thank you, Mario. Okay, welcome everybody. We are going to start off by having our four illustrious panelists quickly introduce themselves. Take it away.
Good evening, everyone. My name is McDonald. Everyone hear me okay? Yes. I manage the global developer programs and services for Research in Motion, BlackBerry. Essentially, that boils down to helping people build apps and build businesses, ultimately on the BlackBerry platform. I know we have announcements later, but two really quick plugs while I do have the mic, and I'll be back on later. Our developer conference is just around the corner, September 27th to 30th, right here in San Francisco. There's a special registration offer for Mobile Monday members, so I encourage you to register for that. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Chris Dury. I'm Vice President of Product for Getjar. We are the second largest app store, delivering about 3 million downloads a day for mobile apps across all platforms. We're quite a bit different than a lot of the other app stores in that we are on the open web. We have an open business model, and I hope that in this panel we're able to explore those differences a little bit more.
I'm Michael Bergen from Nokia, representing the OV by Nokia. And as you may know, we make phones. We make a lot of them. We do 1 million phones a day, every single day, and most of those are enabled with the OV Store, which is part of our OV suite of products. Maps, the store, comes with music, and some for emerging markets as well. And we're always interested in how can we help developers, publishers, and content owners get their products to our users.
Hello, my name is Keighran, and I'm the CEO at Chomp. So Chomp's kind of the new kid on the block. We're about 7 months old, and we do iPhone app recommendations. So we're basically an app for finding apps. We heard that there are web pages for finding web pages, and that seemed to be a big business. So we thought we'd get into this. We're not actually an app store, and we've picked up about 400,000 downloads on iPhone since we went live, and provided about 50 million recommendations on the iPhone. So we're helping a lot of developers on iPhone get their products out there. So that's us. We're kind of like Yelp for the App Store. Thanks.
Awesome, thanks guys. So you guys did such a great job raising your hands earlier. I'm going to give you the opportunity to do it again. Give me a show of hands. How many of you out there are developers? Up in the air. Excellent. How many of you are business developers? How many of you are related with the press, either in media or you are a publicist yourself? Not so many, just me and some friends. Okay, and everybody else, don't want to leave you out, raise your hand if you represent some other part. All right, I'll ask questions next time. Okay, so really quickly, tonight's discussion is about the relationship between developers and the App Store. So we're going to explore that really quickly. As Mario said, there is going to be a question and answer period, and I'm going to combine that with a wish list. For all of you developers out there, or anybody who's ever visited an App Store, which I'm sure is all of you, if you have any wishes, App Stores don't have a certain feature that you want, the question and answer period is also going to be a time for you to very, very briefly throw out 1 or 2 bullet points that you might have, because they're here and they're listening. So, first question, and just jump on in there. What I hear, main issues over and over again, there are 2 streams for developers in app stores, and those questions are, how do I get my app discovered, especially if I'm independent and not necessarily a big corporate brand name like a Facebook or an Electronic Arts, and how do I get paid? So, what we're going to start off with is, how can independent app developers get seen and heard in the App Store and not drowned out by the huge corporate players?
I'll go. Actually, I want to hear you on that as well, but one thing I'm just going to throw out there, and it's important, don't rely on the app stores. You're all really wicked smart people who are making really wicked amazing applications and games. Do your own marketing as well. Do co-marketing, leverage your brand with other brands. Look at some of the stuff that Topulous has done, building their revenue stream by doing recommendations for other games, and work with the Getjars, the Rims, the BlackBerry, the OV stores, the Chomps, the Apples. How can you help each other? How can you co-market and put your own brand out there as well? You need to advertise your own product as if it were pre-web and we're all in the Wild West on newspapers. You have to take care of doing some of your own marketing as well.
Yeah, so App Store, iPhone App Store. So the single biggest way that apps get discovered on the App Store today is by being in the charts. So whether that's the top 25 or whether that's you're in the top 25 of your category, or however else users are kind of browsing for you through the App Store, the whole App Store is basically based on download velocity, and so you need a lot of downloads so that you can appear in the charts and so that you can get your app discovered. So really, the goal for iPhone is how do I get as many downloads as possible really quickly so that I can get into the charts and so that I can get my app discovered. And so the first thing you want to do is have a good app. Sounds crazy, but a lot of people want to release stuff really quickly like they do on the web. But the problem with iPhone is you have to obviously submit it to Apple, it has to get reviewed. Doing updates for your iPhone application is a lot harder than updating your website. The second thing is you want to leverage, your existing user base as much as possible. You want to leverage the press as much as possible. You may want to put ads out there if you can afford to do that. You basically want to do anything you can to get as many downloads as possible and be up the charts. It's the biggest way that everyone gets discovered today. Have a great app and do what you can to get up those charts.
Ben, what kind of ads are you suggesting?
So there's quite a few ad networks that are out there. So there's AdMob, which everyone's obviously very familiar with, that you could go to. There is kind of incentivized kind of downloading that you can pay for. So maybe let's talk about that for a second. Some of you may have heard of Tapjoy. So Tapjoy has a service that you'll go to. They're integrated in with a lot of the virtual sort of gaming communities and things. So a user may be offered, if you take like a farm application for example, they might be offered to get extra coins or something within the game in order to download something. Yes, that may not lead to you getting the best user or the most engaged user because they're really downloading your application to get more points in the game that they're playing, but it will give you the download velocity that you need in order to get discovered in those charts that I'm sort of talking about. So there's a couple options.
Getjar is really designed to solve this problem, or at least help solve the problem. We think of ourselves as an app discovery service. When a user comes to Getjar, we make recommendations for them. About 80% of the downloads on Getjar are free for developers, so they just post an application, they get ranked based on behavioral factors on the site. But 20% are allocated for sponsorships, and we have a product we call Pay-Per-Download, and it's essentially an ad unit that allows you to bid for a download. And so it's another marketing channel. It's quite efficient in what it does. But when people ask us how they can get discovered in apps, we tell them to focus on monetization. To the extent that you're able to monetize better than another app in your category, you're going to be able to out-advertise, you're going to be able to out-develop, and just create a gap from the next. So when we're out talking to developers, we spend a lot of time talking about monetization.
So I think going last, I'll just round out the comments from the rest of the panel. A couple of things that come to mind from my perspective, especially focused on the small developer, is that for as many small developer app shops that are out there, there are a lot of small app marketing companies that have sprouted up. And a lot of interesting partnerships that you can form with those companies. I echo definitely the importance of velocity and getting into whatever the barrier, the top categories gets cut at, whether it be 10, 25, or 50. But there's a lot of kind of smart things that you can do to influence your rankings within that top 25. So thinking about ways to leverage PR, come up with a really unique story, and get the media engaged. Use some PR to get you into that top 25, let's say. Allow organic growth to go from there to carry you forward for a while, and then think about timing your second round of PR as you start to drop off that kind of top 25 listing. So there's a lot of kind of tips and tricks like that for the small developer, which aside from kind of big marketing spends, there's a lot of ways you can efficiently use your resources.
There's also, I just want to touch on something you said. When you talk about the velocity, one thing to consider is price elasticity. As prices go lower, volume gets higher, and as we've all seen in the App Store, 99 cents became the standard price for an application, whether that's worth your time that you put into it or not. So play with that a little bit. Take a look at that and figure out where your costs are and where your revenues are coming from. And then we'll talk about more on this on monetization, of course. The other thing is talk to the stores. I'm part of the OV Publish organization at Nokia, and we're largely looking at a lot of brands, but also innovative apps. We have Forum Nokia, which is the world's largest mobile-dedicated developer relations program. They're all over the world. The US one is right here in Mountain View. There's several Forum Nokia people here. Anthony was checking people in at the front desk, and they're always looking to talk to people who are doing great apps. And we have spotlights. I mean, I'll talk a little bit, do the pitch. We've got spotlights on the OV store. We have the newsletter. We have marketing tools. We have marketing slots and tons of different exposure places, whether it be in our newsletters, whether it be in embeds, if it gets all the way to that level, whether it be on the store itself, on the website. We have banners for your own. I'm not here to pitch Nokia. I'm here to talk to you about developer monetization and discovery. We have tools. I know you guys have tools. I know everyone else does. take advantage of them. Really, take your time and look around every single store, spend some time on their website and see what offerings they have and how you can leverage that, and don't be shy about leveraging it, and talk to us.
Let's actually expand on the idea of monetization a little bit more. Panelists, can you suggest some strategies for monetizing apps? What are some of the things that your app stores do, or what are some of the things that developers can do on their own to leverage that?
You know what's really amazing to me? We're here in San Francisco, and this is really focused on iPhone land here, and now we're seeing the advent of Android. I'm surprised at how little attention a lot of the app stores pay to this monetization issue. When looking at it from a developer perspective, most of the app stores are horrible. And just to give you some metrics, you look at iPhone's revenue per user, just trying to look at the app revenue in the entire ecosystem, from ads to payments, whatever. It's about $20 per user, just to pick a round figure. If you look at some of the others, it's an order of magnitude smaller. And I'd argue that a lot of the attention that the industry is focused on app stores has detracted from the area that adds real value for developers, and that's in this monetization issue. Payments is extremely hard for mobile developers, and doesn't need to be. When a lot of the app stores develop payment solutions, they do it in a closed manner, where they're focused on monetization in their own store rather than for developers anywhere. And I'm not picking on anybody on this panel, it's endemic to the industry. I think this industry needs to focus on monetization. And it's interesting to me, when you look at what Apple's been focused on, it is in this monetization. I mean, the iAd unit is a recognition that there needs to be better monetization for developers. And while I think that Apple's model ultimately isn't sustainable, they do understand that it's really the value of all the revenue that's going to developers that will determine the winners and losers in this platform game. So I'd urge everybody in this industry to focus more on enabling monetization for developers.
So one thing that I would argue a little bit with that is that with iPhone, it's now easier than ever to actually monetize. In fact, up until the iPhone, if you looked at Nokia, if you looked at BlackBerry, if you looked at any of the different mobile platforms that have been out there, it's typically been hard to take payments. It's been hard to find the value that your product provides its user, whether it's a game and therefore some virtual goods, whether it's some extra levels, whether it's whatever it is. I think that it's now easier than ever to actually do that. And I think one of the reasons why the app stores got big quite quickly is because, while we all sit here and go, discovery's not so good, and that's one of the reasons why, we're here, and monetization's not so good, it's just a lot better. In the last 2-3 years, it's got so much better than it's been over the last 10 years, and I think that's one thing that's certainly really exciting. So, yeah, my argument is that it's easier than ever, but I think that one of the reasons why it's got big is because that there is some of that monetization there, and there is that distribution there. So maybe back to your point, as we start to focus more and more on those things, because it is easier than ever, the whole space gets bigger.
Ben and I are apps veterans. We both had mobile apps companies before doing this discovery thing, and we've been through the pains of carrier billing and trying to get deals with operators and all that stuff. So we've lived through it. And my only point is Apple is doing a great job, and I'm just encouraging the rest of the industry to focus in the same way they are on monetization.
So probably a good chance to chime in with a few things that I think are important that I spent a lot of time talking to developers about as far as monetization. On the BlackBerry platform, first and foremost, BlackBerry is actually an open ecosystem, and that's something that I think from a developer's perspective is really important as far as providing flexibility and options and how they can sell their applications. So while we have our own direct-to-consumer storefront in BlackBerry App World, we also partner closely with our carrier partners who operate their stores, but we also make recommendations for things like application preloads. We work closely with other application stores like Getjar. So again, that piece is really important. What you'll also see in App World 2.0, and kind of echoing how things are getting easier, you'll see a lot more focus on billing options. So you can now, from a storefront perspective, not only do PayPal, but also credit card, as well as carrier integrated billing. Makes the developer's life a lot easier as far as just kind of taking the money. Beyond that, we've also talked about and announced our BlackBerry, our advertising service. And again, from an open perspective, the whole idea there is that you can use that as a way to supplement or drive revenue for your application. Again, it's open, so you could use that service to aggregate amongst a number of advertising vendors, and you could use that exclusively, or you could use it to supplement your own direct campaigns. So again, there's just so many different options out there now to monetize your apps.
I agree, carrier billing is a pain. And doing the deal with the carriers is a pain. We all remember the days of the carriers having...
Don't worry, we'll talk more about carrier billing. We'll come back to it. So.
We all remember the days of there being 100 vendors down to 50, down to 12, down to... And it's important. We found in markets where we have carrier billing and credit card billing, so OVStore has credit card billing available everywhere. We're in over 190 countries. I couldn't name 190 countries, but they tell me we're in 190 countries. And we have credit card billing everywhere. We also have operator billing, which, as we all know, is vital, with 88 operators in 26 countries. And I've got my cheat sheet if you want to know exactly which ones and where, because I couldn't name those offhand. But 26 countries with 88 operators. And in markets where we have both credit card billing and operator billing, we have found there to be up to 13 times more purchases and more revenue than just credit card billing. So it's important, and we try to extract that, obviously. You put your application on the OVStore, we deal with the pain of the operator billing. And yeah, there's some costs involved, there's some pain involved, but that's where we're seeing huge uptake. So monetization, yes, advertising is great. We're absolutely open to it. You want to put ads in your app, go for it. We can introduce you to some people. We can help you out with that. If you want to sell your app directly, use only credit card billing for whatever reason, great. You want to use operator billing only, great. Any combination, we're totally open.
So, Chris, you mentioned that the Bay Area is iPhone land. It is also Android land. So, question specifically for Nokia and Ren. What are you guys doing to incentivize developers to also promote for your platforms?
That's an easy one, I think. BlackBerry has over 41 million subscribers. So as much as there's an argument over, where there's a certain kind of preponderance of one device over another, there's really interesting news article lately of kind of Bay Area versus New York, versus Wall Street, kind of different types of users that way. So a huge number of subscribers. That mix, kind of common misconception is that it's largely enterprise, but actually more than 50% of our users are non-enterprise. So there's an audience to target both ways. We're doing a lot, investing a lot in our application platform. You're seeing that in BlackBerry 6 in the first wave. I mentioned advertising service, payment service. We recently launched a geolocation based on self-site service that developers can access for free. So we're really doubling down our investment on the platform. You're seeing the same thing in App World 2.0, making it easier to monetize your apps, to sell through credit card billing, carrier billing, easier to promote your apps through barcodes. You can scan and promote either an app or your whole catalog as a vendor. It's doing lots of different things, and really we've already got a community of over 250,000 registered developers and growing quickly. So there's really never been a better time to develop for BlackBerry.
We're in a similar situation. Our numbers are a little bit higher than that, in the millions. Trying to think what numbers I can...
Sorry, smartphones.
How do you define smartphone?
Now it's gonna be fun.
No, because it's interesting, because that's a good question. Don't be afraid to... I'm sorry, go ahead.
I would even say, just don't get there. There's a lot of ways. There's an interesting report recently by a company called Vision Mobile, and they asked developers where they get their feedback on applications. And the number one source for feedback on their apps was their friends and colleagues. And there's a lot of other ways that you can really decrease the risk of having a bad review. I always talk about, there's lots of options like Mob for Hire. is a great way where you can submit your app and get a lot of feedback for it in a closed environment before it, you have to risk your reputation on the major stores. So get those bad reviews out of the way and take that feedback and make your app better. I think the other place that people fall down is when they take their app global, and they may not have the ability to test their app in another market. So they launch an app that ran here in North America, and they want to launch it in Latin America. And there's kind of two sides to that coin. One is, did you test the app in local market, local device, local carrier, all of those pieces. And there's a lot of, again, solutions like things like Device Anywhere, Perfecto Mobile, offer you remote testing solutions where you can try that out ahead of time. Those are easy things that you really don't want to be getting the bad reviews for. And again, even more so, you want to get local feedback from users. So if you're localizing your app, did you get it right? Check with people in the market. And then the last thing I'd say is, this is another example of why you really want to align your marketing with your initial launch. So if you can come to the media with an interesting angle on your application, and there's been some good success stories of people who got articles, let's say in the New York Times, on a small app that kind of had a niche area, and properly timed to the launch. What's great about that is you drive a whole bunch of users who are really interested in that application space. I'll use one example. The app was called BabyGo. And it's basically an app for small children to kind of amuse themselves. And on the device, you could spell words and kind of make fun noises and sounds. They got a really interesting coverage. They had a unique angle on their app. And everyone who tried that app in the first 24 hours, I would assume a large number of them came from that article. So it was a captive audience almost who was going to give that a great review.
You always have a second chance on Getjar. We are quite developer friendly. And when we trade off the balance of consumer to developer, often we land on the developer side because we think that they really power the ecosystem. And in terms of reviews, what that means is that we will highlight the reviews for the latest version of your app over the reviews for prior versions. And so if you give us a chance, you might be surprised.
That's a fair comment too, and I think the other thing is, and again it relates to having a conversation with the App Store, some of the reviews that get published, sometimes aren't fair. So if there was another consideration on why there was a negative review, and perhaps it didn't have to do with your apps, bring that to the attention of the store manager and let them deal with that review. And again, it's just something that you don't need to have sit out
That's
there.
true, because so many reviews are either 5 stars, I loved it, or 1 star, it did one thing I didn't like. So there are a lot of people in the middle who just don't take the time to add a star rating if they think it's okay, or they think it's good, or they actually have quality feedback that they're not sharing. It usually seems, do you agree, do you find in your experience that it is more polarized, 5 stars, 1 star?
Yeah, because especially if you don't write a review. People who just rate without writing the review, it's going to be either I loved it or I hated it. But again, talking about communicating with the app stores, communication goes a long way. Goes a long way. And not just with, in a number of ways. If you get a bad review, and it's because of X, Y, and Z, go on the review site, go right on the App Store, go on the OB Store, go on App World or whatever, Getjar, and you know what, you're right, we're going to change this, that, and that. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Or, have you tried this, that, and the other thing? It's amazing how well people respond to, oh my God, the developer actually reads this and responds to it, and it's actually present. Don't be afraid to talk to your users. A lot of developers, it's very much, throw it out there and hope it does well. Send our baby into the world and maybe he'll send a postcard back in 100 years. Talk to your users on the App Store, because they're reading these reviews as well, and they're trying to see if anyone's going to answer. Also, in the realm of communication, communicate with the app stores. I don't know about these guys. I know you guys have people all over the world. We do too. If you want to know, hey, how would this play in Indonesia, in Latin America, in Southeast Asia Pacific, in Eastern Europe, in India, we could probably help if we don't know offhand. We certainly have colleagues. We all have contacts out there. Talk to the store managers, even if they don't have an office in whatever region. They know people. They know operators. They know developers. They know publishers. They know press. They know other colleagues in that region, and leverage the expertise of this industry. We are a really well-connected industry, and leverage that communication.
So there's been much talk in the industry about billing and expanding different models of billing. So I hope your hands are ready. You're going to shoot them up in the air again. How many people, when they are buying apps, How many of you prefer to, and as you can have more than one answer, how many of you like to pay through your credit card? All right. How many of you prefer carrier billing? And or? That's nice. PayPal. Or some PayPal-like scheme. And then, oh, no. In the broad sense. And how many prefer to pay the developer directly as in a subscription program? I'm thinking Hoop Plus, for example. Okay. So,
how many of you expect that all apps should be free? Yeah, I was afraid of that.
So how do these various payment methods affect developers and app stores and the relationship between you two?
I mean, I think that if you make something that people want and it's easy enough to buy, then people will do it. And I think that's exactly, because we're so focused on iPhone, I feel like an Apple salesperson this evening. But literally, I think that that's kind of what it comes down to. I think, clearly the price point on iPhone is about $1. And that's, what people are really prepared to pay for without thinking that that's, going to break the bank. And I think that's why we're seeing numbers, from AdMob talking about the fact that people are spending on average about $10 a month on apps because they're downloading a lot of apps and the dollar price point, doesn't seem too bad, and it's so easy to sort of purchase and put that on your credit card each month through iTunes that people do it.
It's ease. It's all about ease. I think ease even more so than price. Make it easier for a consumer to say yes. And whether that's, having operator billing across the planet in as many places as you can, or whether it's having a stored value system like Apple does where they already have your credit card, or whether it's using something ubiquitous like PayPal where you have assumed a login, whatever it is, make it easy for the consumer. I mean, how many of you don't care how you pay for your applications as long as it's easy, secure, and safe? Yeah, lots of nice hands go up. Because that's really what matters. The mechanisms are almost secondary.
I don't know. Earlier you said that setting up carrier billing was a pain.
It's a royal pain, absolutely. For developer, it's a challenge because the operators only have so much bandwidth, and they're focused on things other than helping developers make money. They're focused on moving product, on moving bandwidth, and on selling subscriptions. So if a store, whether that's an OV store, can negotiate that on behalf and just have and take that pain away from the developer. All the consumer sees is, do you want this? Yes, buy. Oh, great, I've got it. And whether that's OV store doing the heavy lifting with the operator, whether that's the BlackBerry store, or I'm sorry, I keep misnaming your store, and it's not intentional. I totally apologize. But whether it's your store, with PayPal, it's one click, you're done. You've already registered and signed up. Whatever it is, it's got to be easy. Do I think our research has shown that operator billing next to credit card billing together has huge benefits in terms of numbers of downloads over credit card billing alone. And it's all about ease of download. And do I think operator billing matters? Yeah, I do. Do I think operator billing is the be-all, end-all? No, as long as it's easy. And the easiest way for most people is on their operator billing. Because a lot of people, especially in developing nations where there's a lot of content being consumed, don't have a credit card. Don't have a PC. If you look at, I spoke in Ukraine a few months ago, and I had an interesting slide about penetration, PC penetration versus mobile penetration. 26% of the population has PCs, 114% have mobile phones. In other words, many people have more than one. So you can't rely in a lot of places on credit card, on a PC billing system. You can only pretty much rely on what is in the mobile handset already.
Just to throw out some names for open billing solutions, Boku and Zong do SDKs for Android and other platforms, allow you to do in-app operator billing with 1 or 2 clicks. Payphone is a new startup that uses a roaming solution to do SIM card-based billing. Really interesting stuff. And in the US, PayPal and credit cards can work in very targeted ways. But it misses just huge areas of the market in terms of either people who don't want to use their credit cards, a lot of people aren't comfortable with that on their phone, there's tons of people that don't have credit cards, and this is most of the gaming segment, mobile games, in that teens simply don't have them. I wanted to go back though to this this dollar price point, because every developer knows it's not going to go anywhere. If you get featured, sure, you could get 30 million downloads, and that's a good business. Angry Birds is fine, and Titleist is fine, but that's not venture scale businesses. That's not going to create billion-dollar businesses. I'd argue that it's actually the design of the App Store that causes that dollar price point. The need to have high velocity to maintain that top ranking, to be in that top 50 where all the downloads are, means that you're giving throwaway applications. You want something that is quick to consume, that doesn't take a lot of thought. There's no, it's really a impulse kind of buy. The alternative that I usually talk about is Facebook. People spend a lot of time on the phone, they spend a lot of time on Facebook. The top apps on Facebook have huge engagement numbers and massively larger price points, not on a per transaction basis, but on a per user basis. And we have at least one company that's going to go public. We have 2 exits on the Facebook platform. It's actually smaller in terms of total number of users engaged with apps. It's actually smaller than iPhone, but the value per user is higher. And it's because, I think, they allow open marketing, so you can cross-promote in a much more easy way, in particular for your own apps. It's much more viral, of course. But also because within their own search and rankings, it's really built around engagement rather than velocity. And this encourages developers to improve the experience and try to keep users coming back. So I agree that's a dollar price point in iPhone. I actually think it's a problem, and I hope that that's something that the other app stores learn from so that we can move on.
Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I'll just add a couple things to that. I think that that's also just the nature of kind of where we're up to at the moment with apps. I think on App Store today, people are kind of consuming the majority of applications in some similar ways to how they kind of consume music. And what I mean by that is that with music, we have kind of like our favorite song collection, we have our favorite albums, our favorite artists, but a lot of the people that are out there discovering music are constantly searching for new music and new songs. And I think that, with App Store today, there is that high turnover because people have kind of their 5, 10, 15, favorite applications. But the majority of the people that are discovering new applications, the ones that have like 100, 200, iPhone applications on their phone, are just constantly they're sitting at the bus stop, they're waking up in the morning, whenever they get a few moments, it's like, oh, I've got to find a new app, sort of thing, like latest app, like people are addicted to it. And that's just kind of how they're consuming it today. And I think that that's why we're seeing huge download numbers on the App Store. I think we're seeing about 500 million a month at the moment. And to put that in comparison against something else that's big, we see about 17 billion searches per month across Yahoo, Google, and Bing. So on a platform that's really only been around for 3 years, you can see how fast it's growing and how much people are doing that. And my point is, it's early days, and I think that that's how people are really consuming this stuff today, and that's why we're seeing the high turnover.
Well, I do think that's the challenge, though, and back to Chris's point on the idea of lots of app downloads, but how long do they stay actually on the device, and how long does it take before the user goes on and replaces them with something else at a low price point? So, back to the early point of it all starting with a great app. Why not have your app be the one where the user is spending their time rather than surfing for new apps? So, if you're building the best app, you've integrated it with the user's kind of native experience on the device. It's integrated with their email, their calendar, their address book, places where they spend a lot of time. It uses location, context, push, all of those things. I think people really drive towards that, and that's what's going to keep your device, your app on the device. And is a great way to build off other monetization services like advertising, when you're going to get a lot of eyeballs back into that app.
That is the perfect segue to my next question. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So there's a lot of really good premium content. There's also a lot of really good free content, but just because you're developing a free app doesn't mean that you don't deserve to get paid. So what are some of the ways that advertising can be used? What are the best ways for developers to integrate advertising into their apps from your perspectives?
A couple of ideas. In terms of sustainable models, IAD is really the only thing that has a high enough eCPM to sustain the kind of development necessary to make a good application. The second to that, I might say, is incentivized offers, like, for example, Tapjoy. I don't think that's necessarily a sustainable model, but it's a good one to explore.
Can you briefly describe the model?
Anybody that's looked at Facebook, same idea. It's that you have a virtual goods model where you essentially pay the user to download another app. Once you download that app, you get access to the first app, and the developer takes a big chunk of that in a similar way to any other kind of ad. But the key to making your business work is to monetize well and then be able to advertise into that. So if you have a value per user of $1 even, you can advertise to a 50-cent level. If that is higher than what others can do, you're going to grow faster than them. And so you need to find the best possible monetization within your category, and you need to fund advertising to really grow that.
I mean, I'm a huge fan of mobile advertising, but and I don't mean to bring it back to the payments piece, but I'm just going to say I think that's one of the huge opportunities of apps. People are prepared to pay, and they are. And so I think that a lot of business models out there from the ground up are being built with monetization ideas in mind. And at the moment, a lot of gaming companies and well, just a lot of people that are building apps for the App Store realize this kind of high turnover, and they have models, specifically designed around launching something, getting a lot of users, knowing that there's going to be churn, and getting ready to release the next one, leveraging the last sort of set of users, and then figuring out how can they bring in payments, and I guess in some cases ads, as to sort of monetize that and keep driving the product forward, or the products forward that they're providing.
Developers, show of hands, how many of you develop for your living? Few? And how many for you is it a hobbyist pursuit? Nobody's developing anymore. What happened? How many of you want to be developing full-time and selling your ads, and that's your full-time job? Not so many. Okay, but curiously, how many users do developers need? And two categories, premium apps and free apps that are monetized with other advertising to sustain a business.
We look at this quite a bit when you're talking about the open development across the world. I think the analogy in music is really interesting because the price points are there right now, and the level of effort is probably similar. And so you could think if you could get $1 per user, that you might be able to develop an app for a platform at a $10,000 to $25,000 level. And so that's kind of about the number of active users you're going to need to get there. And it's very doable as a hobbyist business. Again, back to the sort of the three things in terms of getting featured, getting viral, or getting targeted. On a targeted basis, there's lots of opportunities like that where 25,000 plus users can be an interesting business. But to create sort of venture scale businesses where you're going to be the next Zynga, you're looking at, you're going to have to be viral and featured. and so that's an awful lot of users. That's 20, 30 million plus. Now, Getjar's been doing this for a while, so we have about 10 to 12 applications that are over 50 million downloads now. And so it is possible to do it if you can find the right category and get the right volume and get viral. It's definitely possible to do that. So those are really the big models. Those are ways to think about it.
Yeah, again, there's a lot of, how many users does a developer need? Well, there's a lot of parts to that equation, including cost of your development, how much you're going to charge for it, are you doing this ad supported, are you doing this cross-platform, how targeted is it, how mass market is it? I mean, it's a hard, what your break-even point, what you're going to charge, how many users you need, that plus profit.
How thickly you want to line your pockets.
Exactly. It's a bigger question than just how many users do you need. It's your entire business model, I'm assuming if we're all sitting here, we all have some experience with coming up with a business plan and coming up with what our costs are and what our revenues are, and hopefully those two, are balanced on the proper side of the line.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be repetitive, but I think that's the sort of thing that you really do want to think about ahead of time, is making your decision on what your input costs are going to be, how much investment you're making, and what your time to get a return on that is going to be. I'll say, out of all the variables of kind of the input costs and how much you're charging and the pricing and all of those different things, I would say one of the ones that I would encourage you to keep in that calculator that too often gets dismissed is support costs. So again, don't think about this just as the first release of an application, but what are your costs to update it? How are you going to continue growth of that business? Is it a sustainable business model that requires what growth factor to be sustainable? So it's not really just about a run to a certain break-even number. It's hopefully a much longer-term plan.
And just one thing I want to jump on that. When you're doing your costs and you're considering support, when you need to figure out where you're going to cut, don't cut QA, because again, it comes back to your first app won't be a great app. Think I'll just get this one out there just to make some revenue so I can make the next one really great. Again, first impressions, don't skimp on your QA costs.
So that goes for beta applications as well, I would assume. Any beta app that is released in the market before.
Is it a beta if it's released in the market?
Sometimes, yeah, on Android.
Yeah. It's, beta things have to be obviously very clearly laid, and this isn't pursuant necessarily to mobile exclusively, but to anything. Again, communication. Let your users know, this is beta, please give feedback. This is not final. And if you're charging for it, then you really need to examine what beta really means.
Yeah, and I think, the only other thing that I'll say about that is, this is just like standard manufacturing, right? This is all QA stuff that we would have known from a previous kind of fixed manufacturing industry, right? The earlier you catch a defect, the least it costs you. So if you catch it at time of coding, then that's the least possible it's going to cost you, assuming you can't avoid, any issues. But then after that, again, the earlier you can do it, the less it's going to cost you. And once it hits the user, whether it's beta or it's you call it your full production app, that's you're really going to pay for it then.
So just on that, I just think that yes, the QA part of it's really, really important, but for a lot of mobile apps to be successful, I think starting as early as possible and talking to users is what's key. And so one of the things I've learned through developing quite a few mobile apps is maybe even before you write your first line of code, like you go and pull together a focus group and sort of say, what are you doing now? For this utility or for this game or whatever it is that you're building, like what are you using now? And let's look at what are some of the problems there, what do you like, what don't you like? Let's kind of dig into that. And I think that as early as possible in the development phase that you can be talking to users and figuring out what they're going to like, what they're going to actually use is really key. And starting to, as you're building prototypes, putting just constant user testing sort of thing. I think user-centered design has become more important than ever as we start to build mobile applications.
Yeah, build a great app. That's where we started. Right?
Yeah, it's even cheaper in the design phase. Completely agree.
Thank you, panelists. Let's turn now to the audience for some questions, and please remember to project because we don't have a microphone for you. So, first question.
3 parts. What's your monthly billing payment, period? What's your split with the carriers or other partners? And what are your terms of service allows monetization and don't allow?
Got your work
I have
out.
the easiest answer to that, so I'll answer it first. It's any. And Getjar's open, so you use any payment method, any monetization. I mentioned a couple earlier. Our terms of service allow anything legal in that country. And so we don't restrict anything.
What's the payment period on it?
It's up to you. So you work with any third-party payment solution, PayPal, Roku, Zon, etc., and monetize however you want. What's different about Getjar is we don't ever charge the user before the download. All monetization happens in the app. And we do that actually for this QA reason, and that is that we don't think it's possible to actually test every app on every phone for any developer, even the largest. And so what we do is we let the users decide. They can rank and review. We have a conversion API that will show you exactly what phones and operators your application is working on and isn't. And ultimately, community decides what works and what doesn't. So it's open for you.
So the question from an Apple perspective, across all of the various distribution models, so be it carrier, credit card, or PayPal or others, it's 70-30 across the board. And that's standardized. That's good in some senses, not as good in others. It's, I think, from a carrier billing perspective, extremely competitive. And again, where having a larger base of being able to negotiate on behalf of the carrier, that's where the manufacturer and direct-to-consumer storefronts like Apple can come in. Payment terms depends on the type, again, of what your monetization model is. So is it a one-time app payment? Is it monthly? Is it advertising? So I mean, there are some variables there that make that a bit more complicated.
And I'm afraid my answer is not going to be a whole lot more concise because, again, there are a number of different revenue models involved, credit card versus operator. We do 70-30, and again, that 70-30 is direct on credit card, but it's after aggregate operator billing costs for markets in which you have selected to do operator billing. It's not a quick one. It's 70-30 because that's the messaging, but the reality is there's a lot to it because there's operator billing for those markets versus credit card billing, and that's also going to affect the pay period, your payout period as well. Again, we're always glad to talk to you and look at what you got, where you're doing it, and it's all spelled out in the OB agreement. And I'm not going to go through the whole legal form here because I don't have it memorized.
I don't want to leave any confusion on the table. When I said 70-30, it's 70-30. So regardless of what it is, you get 70%. So that's kind of pure dollar sales from the store. You're getting 70% of that. We handle all the repayments to the carrier, any operating costs, everything else out of the 30%.
Just a quick one on the carrier side. What's the average terms that are good? Are you 90 day? Are you 30 days? Some of our T-Mobile guys, our Verizon guys, move from 90 to 30. Some people are seeing 180. So we'd like to hear what's reasonable for you guys.
It's challenging because we're looking at a global scale. So obviously, in some countries, 30 days is easy. In some countries, it's 90 days is impossible. So it can be up to 180 depending on what countries and which operators. And again, that's not up to us. We'd like to pay you the day we get it, of course, but we can only do it when the operators do their paperwork.
So because we do genericize, or when we essentially handle the transaction and pay out to the carrier as well as yourself, it's standardized around the world. I'm not sure that, I don't, off the top of my head, can't remember, it's, I think 60, but that's standardized.
So let's take some more questions.
Well, no, all I was going to say was we're not actually a store. So you come to us for reviews and recommendations, and then we send you as a user to the store to actually purchase it. We make money from the store, which doesn't come out of the developer's pocket, it comes out of Apple's pocket. Yeah, we don't actually sell the apps.
Are you getting 30 days? Are you getting
Actually, I don't know off the top of my head what we're getting. I think it's like 45 days or so, but I just don't know off the top of my head.
All right, next question.
Yeah, it's quite well known that the app stores are a disaster of a business model for most of the developers. So let's state that I take all your recommendations. I make a good app, a really good app. Currently, the average development cost for doing a good app on iPhone is about $35,000 or more. So let's take the minimum amount, $35,000. Let's take a recommendation of putting a marketing budget in for putting it to the boost to the list. It's about $20,000 on AdMob. So you get $55,000 of investment. Then you put $5,000 for getting the reviews initially to get basically good reviews so that you don't fail. And so you're up to $60,000 just to start with the application. Then on top of it, you do 2 iterations of updates, which is $10,000 each, so it's $80,000. That's first year investment for the application. How many of these stores and how many applications of your stores are making more than $80,000 to make the money back?
Can you briefly repeat that question?
Basically, it's expensive to build an app. It costs, it's a lot, sorry, Nico? Yes, thanks. So the question was, I think that it costs around $80,000 to build an app. So how many developers are making that money back in the end?
Actually, just one number. On average, right now, the median income for paid application right now on Apple's iTunes App Store is $1,800. So that's the starting point. That's the median that the paid apps are making right now.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know with Chomp, but what I can say is, to me, it's like the web in the 90s. Like, people were paying huge dollars just to have a website. And so I guess you really have to go through, like, what value does it really represent to you personally? And so there's a long tail of developers out there that are building like their own apps because they're developing themselves and it doesn't cost them that much money to build. There's entire companies and businesses that are built around, you know, building an app and pushing it out there. I mean, so I don't know, but I mean, you take Hollywood, for example. Like, every new movie's got an app that's coming out right now. I mean, it's part of a marketing budget. I mean, they're not at this stage directly looking at how much money does that make back from it. It's just part of an overarching marketing campaign. Whereas if you take some of the gaming companies, NGMoco as an example, they'll put a game out there, spend a lot of money on it, but then they'll leverage the users and the data and all the stuff that they got from the first round in the next application that they put out there, and they are basically constantly managing this ad spend, development spend against how much money they can make, you know, from being on the App Store. There's certainly, you know, a lot of losers. There's definitely, you know, some winners out there, and we hear about them.
I think it's quite tough on iPhone. It just is, and it's designed that way, as I was saying before. You know, Apple doesn't have a huge incentive to make sure that lots of developers are making money. They just want to make sure there's lots of developers. And so far, there's never ending stream there. Just to give you some examples of what does work, we're big believers in the mobile web. And Getjar has this product we call Mobile Site Shortcuts, which essentially turns every mobile site into an application. It's a launcher app that goes to your website. We cover 82% of phones with it. And it's that coverage that makes a huge difference. You can develop a mobile site, and as you know in HTML5, you can do some really cool things. And so, as an example, Flirtomatic. Does anybody know Flirtomatic here? It's a mobile dating site. They are killing it. And they're doing it because coverage and virality. They're able to do mobile payments in a similar way you see in other ways. They could do advertising because they have a large community. The reason that they're able to make it work is because they do mobile web.
So I'll build on that slightly. I think we've also seen huge uptake when people have taken a mobile web experience and added a launcher or a shortcut, essentially like a place on the device screen. We also have in BlackBerry something called widgets, which allows you to take a website or build a web app and then wrap it and distribute it as a Java application, which is a native OS and language on the BlackBerry platform. But essentially, you code in HTML. You can integrate into anything on the device via JavaScript. So that's where you go beyond the mobile web, and you can take the kind of best of both worlds and the power and flexibility of Java, the kind of ease of development and flexibility and multi-platform capabilities of web. So that's a great way to reduce your development costs. I think the other piece would be when you talk about some of the downstream costs like marketing and promotion. Again, I think that should be part of the decision on how you choose your app store. How willing is the company to partner with you in making your application a success? We don't charge for features in BlackBerry App World. App World marketing at rim.com. You submit an image, your images, high-res images, your descriptions. As long as we'll do some additional testing on your app, as long as it works as advertised, it's a good app, it goes into the queue to be featured. So. Again, I think that should be part of the decision.
Thank you, Ian. We're going to take 2 more questions. Back of the room. Project.
What percentage of application developers are currently turning a profit?
I can say the question, but I don't know the answer. So for everybody else, the question was, what percentage of developers are actually making money?
You took the easy way out.
I know.
I don't know broadly.
Making profit, sorry.
Profit. I don't have an answer.
We're at under 5% of mobile expertise management. We're at under 5% normalized across all stores. On some like iPhone, with the $1 thing, it's even lower.
those numbers are probably right, but a lot of the activity that's happening in apps today is not about the mobile developer. Ben talked about movie production companies and movie marketing, this idea of app marketing. One of the biggest trends we've seen in Getjar, we've been doing this for about 4 years now, so we really started in the roots. In fact, this was a mobile games company when it started. We started in the roots of black and white Java games. The big trend is the big mobile web properties are moving mobile. And everybody in here has a Facebook app on their phone. But it's those kind of plays is where a lot of the activity is. And they see it as an extension of their web properties. And so they don't look at it any differently. The business models that work there work well on mobile as well. And so if you consider that, then proportionally to the number of users that an app might have, a lot of them are making money. It's just the individual mobile developer starting from just a concept. It's a very difficult business, just like it is on the web.
Yeah, the only other thing I just want to say on that is, again, I made the analogy earlier that it's like the web in the 90s. And so what I mean by that is that apps really represent a new channel for people to build services and provide content down. And I think that it's early days. If you ask yourself the question, how many people were making money on the web in the mid-90s or the late 90s, I bet you people are probably making more money through apps today. There was about 250,000 web pages in 1996 or 1997. Believe it or not, there's a bit over 250,000 on the App Store today. It's just early, and so there certainly is people that are making money and building real businesses out of it. There's a lot of people that aren't. There's a lot of people that are using it as a marketing tool as well. And I just think that the whole space is just starting to grow and starting to explode finally. They're like 10 years down the road with mobile, and every year for the last 10 years people have been saying, this is the year for mobile. But it is early and it's just sort of starting out, and I think that's kind of where it's at.
Pick up fast.
It's all back to the business model, right? So whether it's an established business model or you're building a new business model, it's got to be one that works. And I think a common pitfall and one that probably takes account for a lot of those numbers coming off the bottom on failures is you got to think about building an app, not just a feature. So I think that is kind of a coin or a takeaway. Sustainable business model, you really got to think about a whole value proposition for your app.
We're going to take the last question, and yes, you're right there. Can you please stand and project?
Are developers clamoring for better app stores, better tools? So if I look at the iPhone, the iOS platform allows the developer to build an app that is orders of magnitude better than Symbian or BlackBerry OS. And so would a developer be better off just with an OS that doesn't suck, so they can build great apps, or they really need an app store that's better?
Well, hold on. I'm going to take one step back. The OS and the tools, because you nailed it. Yeah, the question was, do we hear developers clamoring for better app stores or for better development tools? Is that the essence?
Yeah, tools and platform.
Tools and platform, right. And that's one of the things that we're really excited about with Qt. We acquired Trolltech last year, year before, and we've just launched the Qt, capital Q, lowercase t, Qt. The Qt SDK, which great tools and getting better. There's a lot of Google Earth, for example, was originally developed in Qt. So they're very full-featured tools. We've taken it to mobile, and with that, you can address Symbian and MIMO and MeeGo going forward. So our current and our newer platforms that we're launching our first Symbian 3 device, the N8, this fall. We've got some new MIMO and MeeGo phones, which are high-end Linux-based smartphones. And you can address all those with a really full-featured, excellent tool. And we agree, tools are vital. And that's why we've invested so much in Qt. That's on one hand. On the other hand, I want to talk about what you were talking about earlier. Both of you were mentioning mobile web and how important that is. So we've actually launched two SDKs, the Qt SDK for native development and the Web SDK for mobile websites to make great apps based on all the web technologies that we all know, love, and are very familiar with and very good at. So we have the Web SDK and we have the Qt SDK. And again, this is what forum.nokia.com. All the tools are free. They're all out there. It's all open. The SDKs, code samples, documentation, blah, blah, blah. But again, we agree. Tools are absolutely vital to make great apps.
I'll try to keep it short. which they haven't done a great job of so far. It's both, right? So it's tools, it's in the distribution. So we're investing in both. So check out BlackBerry 6 and the new APIs that are available and the new features. Check out the widget toolkit for building web applications and making them easily distributable. And then check out BlackBerry App World 2.0 and tell us what you think. Tell me what you think. Grab my card. That's, you know, the platform today and the commercial opportunities today on BlackBerry, never been more positive than this.
All of the panelists will be available afterwards, so come and talk to them if you have more questions. Before I hand the podium back to Mario, let's give a round of applause for our panelists.
We have announcements next. Thank you, Jessica. You did a great job, and also the panelists did an awesome job here tonight. So we have announcements, and so typically what we do is we just line up here and kind of keep it brief for statements and announcements. And if you're hiring as well, it's a good time to do that. Because obviously there's quite a few developers here. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Hello, my name is Larry McDonough. I am with the product management team for RIM, and I'm going to give my monthly shameless marketing pitch for our developer conference. It is coming, DevCon is coming in September 27th, so if you haven't registered for it, or if you want to go, there's forms I have at the table outside, which will give you a $150 discount. So please pick one of those up if you're planning on attending. That'll save you some real bucks. Also, our Redwood City office here for RIM is hiring. We have a number of openings open, so please check those out. I was told today by one of my colleagues that we have a number of opportunities in our platform engagements team. So just look out on the web on our job site for RIM, and type in Redwood Shores or Redwood City. I think one of those two. And also, lastly, our developer challenge submissions closes September 6th. So we're giving out, $1.5 million worth of prizes. So if you're working on that app, keep going. If you haven't started that app, you have about a month. Get them in by September 6th, and reap the rewards from that. One nice thing about that is there is regional judging. So if you're from, it's not all judged in one pool, so if you're submitting from other countries or you work elsewhere, live elsewhere, you'll be judged in that region. So it's a pretty great possibility that there's a lot of prizes that you can win. And I'll be around afterwards if anyone has any questions. Thanks.
Hey, my name is Peter Kakanis. I'm with Sony Ericsson, Developer Services Manager. We finally just announced our first Android device available with AT&T in the US. Yay! Related to that, we're launching a part of our Developer World website called Developer Services. So if you have a tool, product, service that would be of interest to other Android developers, get in touch with me afterwards or send an email to developerservices@sonyericsson.com. We're looking to feature people. If you have an app that you'd like to feature in the Sony Ericsson channel on Android Market, I can point you to the person for that. Also, we just launched the beta of Life.episode for Android, which is our services platform. So if you think you might want to, feel free, you can download that onto any Android app 1.6 and up. And if you think you might want to be interested in working with that platform, do that. And there was one more, but, oh, no, whatever. Okay, that's enough.
I'm Ari Volkov from Dolcourt, founder and CEO. We've come up with a new business model, basically coming up with something that can actually do some money on mobile, a different take on what the individual developers are doing. We're looking for three things. Angel investors to invest in this new business model. The second thing is we're looking for a marketing person to lead our marketing efforts, and also for a patent lawyer or patent agent to join us. I'm going to be here, so come up and talk to me. Thanks.
So on the topic of monetization, my name is John Huber. I work with one of the largest retailers in the United States, and I help manage their mobile strategy. We also run our e-commerce operations here out of San Francisco and have experienced phenomenal growth over the years. And what we're looking at is how we can leverage the mobile platform in new ways. And so we're actually looking for good solutions. We're looking for innovative ideas on how we can leverage what you guys have to help us grow our business through the mobile channel. So if you have something good that's worthwhile, I'm going to be meeting with different vendors, and I'm going to be taking a few pitches here and there. Would love to hear what you have to offer. Probably don't have time to talk in depth with you guys here tonight, but pass me your card, drop me a little elevator pitch, and we'll have a time to follow up. Thank you.
Hey, I'm Josh from Flipster, and we're doing a lot of hiring right now. We're expanding and doing really well. So we're hiring a senior product manager, a mobile developer, and QA developer. So if anyone's interested, check out our website or come talk to me. Thanks a lot.
My name is Dasha, and I'm representing Ukrainian developers here. So if you're looking for talented, incredible, passionate guys, they're in Ukraine, and I'm running a big community of developers in Ukraine, and you can talk to me and I will give the introduction and bridge you with great guys. Thank you. Have a good evening. Thank you for being here.
Go, Michael.
Hello, everybody. I'm Michael Salmon, Verizon Wireless. Thanks for all the wonderful comments on carrier billing. Before I shamelessly recruit, because I do have a number of open positions in my team, my group runs the Verizon Developer Community VCast App Store, which we actually just launched across all of our room devices now. So if you're interested in that carrier billing things for our tens of millions of BlackBerry customers, come on, and by all means, please talk to me if you have any questions, or check out our website, which is just developer.verizon.com. But we're also going to be announcing some really big things soon now that we've got all the BlackBerry stuff off the table, so that's good. So Bold, Tor, Curve, Storm, all those devices are now live. So from an openings positions, I got some catalog management positions for our App Store, as well as product development engineers based out of Walnut Creek. Based out of, also I have openings in Boston for Android developers and in San Francisco, in the Bay Area for Android developers, which is obviously a huge market for us right now. So if you have any interest in that stuff, I'll be back there having some water. Okay.
Hi everyone, my name is Julian. I run the Perisoma Innovation Loft. We host a lot of mobile and startup events. We had the Mobile Mixer last week, which some of you might have been at. And on the 25th, we have the App Face-Off. So apps get 5 minutes to pitch to a group of judges. So there are 2 VCs on the panel, a couple ad networks, and a developer, as well as an assistant editor from VentureBeat. It costs $250 to pitch. But it's live feed. You have access to thousands of dollars worth of prizes. So if you're a developer, iPhone, Facebook, RIM, Android, anything, feel free to see me. We got a few spots left open. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Fred from Wabi. I'm the co-founder. So any developers who are looking for real-time data replication in the cloud, we'd like to offer services. The website is moolab.com. M-O-O-L-A-B.
How you guys doing? My name is Kwasi Asari. I'm the CEO of a social game development company. We're called Fighter. Our differentiating factors are essentially working directly with major celebrities and Fortune 100 brands. I'm in town from New York for the rest of this week looking for mainly social game developers, so maybe some of you guys have some of that expertise, as well as to close our angel round. So I'll be here. See you guys later.
Hi, my name is Caleb Elston. I work at Justin.tv, the largest live video platform And we have 2 million users on our iPhone app, and we're looking for awesome iPhone developers to help with our latest update, making it possible for anyone to broadcast live. We're also hiring Android developers, so please come and see me. And at the very least, you could see the beta of our latest app, which only about 50 people in the world have seen, so no reporters.
Hello, everybody. My name is Matthew. I'm with a company called App Backer, and we are the first wholesale marketplace for iPhone and iPad developers. What we do is we allow backers to come in and buy wholesale units, hopefully 500 and up, and you get paid wholesale. You get paid today. So a few things: we won the PayPal X Developers Award, Cambridge West Seed Fund Award, and Always On Global 250, and the Parasoma People's Choice Award. But anyway, so if you're a developer and you're looking to get funding, new revenue model, appbacker.com.
Hi, my name is Kaz. I work for the company called B-Trucks. B-Trucks is a cross-cultural branding and web consulting firm specializing in Japan and China market. B-Trucks and the SF New Tech Meetup are collaborating and hosting an event called SF New Tech Japan Night on October 13th, which is the second Wednesday of October. We are currently looking for sponsors, and so if you are interested in Japanese cutting-edge technology, please join us. Thank you.
What's the website?
That's the company. Oh, well, company website is meetups.com, or you can check out sfjapannight.com. Thank you.
All right, guys, thanks for hanging in there. I have one more frivolous and no shame announcement. So Getjar is hiring. So we are looking for a sales director, Android developer, graphic artist, UI designer, Java backend developer, front-end developer, search engineers. What they're not looking for a new director of mobile probably. And careers at getjar.com is our alias. Alicia over here is very shy, but she's our HR recruiter, and give her a ping if you're interested in any of these job positions. But also check out getjar.com. All right, guys. Next month we have a UI design panel that we're putting together that I think we may host at, or be hosted by Google. So look forward to that. See you guys next month. Thank you.